right, welcome back to the Browns Beat podcast. I am one half of your co-host here, Tristan, and I'm here with my man Derek. Derek, it's been a while since we recorded a podcast. A lot has happened.
hmm
How you doing? How you feeling? NFL drafts coming up soon. NHL playoffs are starting soon. NBA playoffs are starting soon. It's getting exciting here in the sports world. Just not specifically for the Browns right now. It's a little dull, but it's about to be exciting.
hmm
So, Derek, how have you been? How have you been? And how excited are you for the draft?
Well, I just realized I had an AirPod in and not my other headphone, so that's a start. Um, it's like you said, it's that kind of weird period where it's like stuff's happening, but at the same time, it's not. And you're just at that point where it's like, all right, I wish I could just fast forward this time in life and just move past it. But, put your head down, go to work, and, before you know it, it'll be draft night. So. It's about where I'm at.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And looking forward to the draft. It's really exciting to see the options for the Browns. Excuse me. It's possible we'll end up doing a mock draft before, or highlighting some guys, some positions and stuff. But really, it's touch and go for us right now. I'm in college right now, going through some finals, and I know Derek. He's got a lot going on in his life, so we'll see what we can get to with the prospect side of things. But we absolutely will do a review of the Browns draft prospects when the picks are made. But with that being said, Derek, man,
hmm
what are we going to be talking about in this show? Obviously, there's a big hint. The reason why I'm glowing pale uh, in the background. Derek, what are your thoughts on the new Cleveland Browns helmet that was just announced earlier today, but we've known for a while?
Yeah. So there was a leak. I forget from who. But I'll be honest with you. I mean, obviously, you guys can see it behind us here. It's hard to miss it. But I was a little bit scared, I'm not going to lie, because uniforms are such a big deal to me. Like, the OCD side of things, it drives me insane. And Tristan, we've been saying on this podcast for the longest time, we need white face masks. It's a must. I think I brought it up last time, but I tweeted out beginning of the offseason three things I need: white face masks, second receiver, and orange jerseys. Well, you know, two of the three might have to settle for it. I haven't heard anything on jersey yet, but maybe next year. Who knows? But back to the helmet. I think it's beautiful. I think it is. It's perfect for the uniform. I think it's perfect for us. The white face mask just matches too well with our home uniform, with our away uniform especially. And the only negative I had was I was very afraid of the glossy look because I like that matte orange look. I think that looks so good. Washington Commanders helmet, that matte, not rose, but whatever you call that red,
Almost like a
burgundy.
crimson
Yeah,
or burgundy. It's something like that. Yeah.
yeah, but it's beautiful. I mean, it is just beautiful. I love that matte look. But when I found out we were going to the glossy look, I was like, hope it looks good. And it does. I think it looks good. They didn't overdo it. It doesn't look like it's too glossy. It's that nice match. And it'll look great under the lights, hopefully. But all in all, I mean, I do think the orange looks a tad different. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just the shift, but all in
Yeah.
all, I'm happy with it. What do you think?
Yeah, looks clean. Like you said, the white face mask we've been big fans of before. We wanted them to keep them around, and listen, credit to the Browns, they listen to the fans. At the end of the day, it is the fans' team, regardless of who owns it, and it's nice to see that the team's gonna listen to our input because this is something that all of Browns fans everywhere wanted this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And yeah, I do like that glossy look. I understand what you're saying about the color looking different. I think it's because of the fact that it's like a glossy, it reflects light differently, so it affects like how we see it and stuff.
Mhm.
I mean, for me, it looks close enough to what it has been. Um, I'm more so happy about the white face mask. You know, that's the big thing for me. And also, like, if we want to get symbolic about it, um, these were the helmets that we wore before we lost our team. They were the
Yep.
helmets that we wore when we finally got our team back. It's the same logo. And, you look at these jerseys that we got, what, 2 years ago now? Um,
No, it's been
the New Jerseys, they've been around
yeah.
for that long.
It
Oh, you know
was
what? It was after Baker's
Baker's.
rookie's year. Oh
Hmm.
my gosh, wow, time's really flown. Wow.
Isn't it crazy?
Yeah, it's insane. Um, but the jerseys, right, and now the helmets and the logo, like, you know, I would go as far as to say this is also symbolic of where the Browns are now. They are where they were before we moved, a competitive team that has some good history, and I think we've returned back to that competitive team nature, and it's exciting. It's if you want to be symbolic about it, it's a symbol that we are back as a team that is competitive, needs to be taken seriously and respected. And it's nice to be amongst that category again. So, really excited to see how they look in full uniform on the TV, on the field when we're there in person. Because I'm sure Derek and I are going to find a way to get to another game this year. But it's gonna be a good look. I'm excited to see it.
I'm excited for Media Day because on Media Day
Yeah.
this helmet will be featured full uniform. I'm excited. I am. I was like I said, I was really worried because like I said, it maybe it's just me. I know there's people out there like this, but the little things and the changes, like a glossy look, is enough to make you be like, don't like that. But all in all, I think they did a good job. Like you said, it's a modern take on an old look. And same thing, like you said, with the jerseys. I mean, that is going to be the jersey for a long, long time. I can't even tell you how long it's going to be till they upgrade that or even change the look. Like, that is the Cleveland Browns. So, to me, this is just the next step of that. But Tristan, speaking of the Cleveland Browns, forever Cleveland Browns, two former players of the Browns decided to sign 1 day contracts with the team to retire as members of this organization. And Tristan, those two players would be one, Rashard Hollywood Higgins, and Christian Kirksey. So, um, kind of caught me off guard, but I gotta say, I'm pretty happy about this. What did you think?
It says something that these players wanted to come to Cleveland to sign their 1 day contracts and retire as Browns. Um, when was the last time that that's happened where a player not already on the Browns signs a 1 day contract to retire as Brown? I mean, I can't think of any off the top of my head. And we were just talking about symbolism with the helmet. It's an incredibly good look when players want to retire as a Brown. I think it meant a lot to the players individually. Um, and listen, as a fan, like, I remember when Kirko was here, and he was a big player in that linebacking room. I remember when Hollywood was having an exciting connection with Baker, and how we all thought he was going to be the wide receiver
Mm-hmm.
two of the future for the team, and unfortunately, it just didn't pan out that way. Um, but make no mistake about it, like, these guys were good Browns. Like, they did help contribute to our winning, and in some instances, they filled in roles where they may not have been the most well equipped to take care of. Um, but they were both huge impacts in changing our culture. Um, you know, I especially look to those early years with Jarvis, uh, Kirko, especially on the defensive side, he was a big time leader for us. The early years of Miles Garrett before he kind of found his voice in the locker room. They're those types of players really allowed the opportunity, took the pressure off of a lot of our young guys to let them grow and develop and mature their own game. And now those young guys are leading this team, and it's a damn good team. So we
Hmm.
can thank those guys for laying a good foundation.
Yeah, and especially when you look at a guy like Kirksey. Like Kirksey was around during the rough times, and even with Higgins, it says a lot, and especially I don't know if anybody else notices it, but you follow the players, and Higgins, even after being off of the Browns, was tweeting about Browns related things and talking about the city of Cleveland, talking about the team, and that says a lot. If you're a former player and you're in a different spot and you're trying to find your footing, but you're still attached to a city and to a fan base and a team, to me that speaks volumes. I know some people, it is what it is, but like for Higgins, it's kind of unfortunate the way his career did go, right? He was a Cleveland Brown for a good amount of time. I wouldn't say like a long, long period of time, but he had his time to shine. He had his time in the sun. For whatever reason, unexplained, him and Baker were tight and they had that connection, and he was Mr. Reliable. He really was. And he certainly had an impact while he was here. And then on the other side of things, Kirksey was a dog. Like he, to me, there's a handful of people that you can credit for the culture change and the whole dog check thing. I think as much as that seems goofy and it's a stupid little thing that we do, that is something that really put pride, I would say, back into the fan base, into the organization. Because, hey, you got a guy who's been here through the thick of it. And even though he wasn't on the team as much for the turnaround, when did he get? I want to say we let him walk.
We
When was
did.
that?
Because funnily enough, I think he went to Houston.
Yes.
Or no, he first went to Green Bay and then he went to Houston. Um, Geez, this would have been around 2020,
Mm-hmm.
2020, 2021 ish. I think.
Yeah.
I think. Uh,
Something like that. Who
yeah,
knows?
it was one of those years. I'm trying to remember. Because when he left, we got AWOC in.
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah.
the year that we got AWOC. So I think AWOC's been here for 2 years actually. So it would have been like because he AWOC played 2 seasons with us,
Mm-hmm.
and then we're going into a third. So yeah, I think it's about 2, 3 years ago
Yeah.
since he was here.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, Kirko is just one of those guys. He's a Jarvis Landry. I would argue, a Nick Chubb type, maybe like a Denzel Ward type, where kind of that unique leadership role. And it's what he was. So I'm happy that these two guys decided to retire as Cleveland Browns. If you ask fan bases of the rest of the league, what do they think of Christian Kirksey and what do they think of Hollywood Higgins? They wouldn't care. They wouldn't recognize them as big time players. But for us, those were impact guys. Those were guys that we loved, that were loved by the fans, loved by the team, and they made their impact while they were here. So, all in all, I'm happy about it.
And I actually did remember the most recent player to sign a 1 day contract with the Browns and retire a Brown was Joe Hayden.
Oh,
Joe
yeah.
Hayden did that.
Yep.
Yeah. But before him, I don't know. That's reaching pretty far back.
Yeah, no kidding. But speaking of impactful players and guys who are difference makers, one Nicholas Jamal Chubb has restructured his contract. Tristan, there were a lot of people on social media this offseason. Some big time places. PFF. I love PFF. I think they're great, but man, they were saying some dumb stuff with the Browns this offseason. They were talking about Chubb getting cut, Njoku getting traded, and us as fans, we were like, yeah, no. Like, none of that is happening. But people still believed. Some people still believe Chubb was gone. Uh, Andrew Berry does his work, ends up restructuring the contract. Now, Tristan, my question to you, two-part question. A, what'd you think of the restructure? And B, typically when you see restructures along these sort of lines, it means extension. That's kind of what I got out of this. I personally am expecting a Nick Chubb extension at some point. I'm not saying soon, it might be later on. But I think the Browns are gearing up to kind of kick the can down the road again with a Nick Chubb contract. So, question A and question B. What did you think?
Yeah. So the restructure itself, you know, good move. You know, it's like for me it's more so like a thing of right. So you restructure Chubb. Uh what was like what's the following move here? That's the more important thing for me personally. If you're just kind of restructuring it to kind of just wait it out for this last year, or I don't know what the end goal with the restructure is, but I mean, I'm fine with it. Saves us on cap space, so maybe if there is a player in free agency that uh going into camp we end up snagging, that's fantastic. I don't know as though I see that this year, but I mean, hey, time will tell. um as far as if we were to extend him. So, obviously, I would love to extend Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb, we've talked about it. He's the model Brown. Like, every time we have somebody that comes into this organization, the first person that we point to for how we want that person to be, how we want them to act in the building, especially, is Nick Chubb. Just his commitment to football outside of uh, outside of the facility. He never gives a quote, like anything that's really worth reciting, right? He's very humble, quiet, does his job, works hard, and then he's done. Cooper's the same way. We love guys that are like that, right? Where they don't need to be flashy. It's nice. So, um, I think I would definitely love an extension to happen. However, I do have to say I don't think it's necessarily guaranteed that the extension will come. Um, I I really want Nick Chubb back, but at the same token, I understand if from AB's analytical mind, he says I could find multiple backs to take that job and be able to be uh, more prepared in case of an injury. Because this past season with Chubb being hurt, it really showed a weakness that we didn't have the guy behind him that could do the job, right? And that's scary. But at the same time, I really hope we extend him because I think that he's a Brown. He's a Brown through and through. He'll always be a Brown. He'll be the guy that we always talk about with our grandkids about who was, one of the most underrated Browns ever. This is in like 50 years time, right? Um, Nick Chubb. And
Mm-hmm.
I want very badly for him to be around if slash when we hoist the Lombardi. I really want that, man. Uh, and I hope he has a great year. I hope he has a great year and we extend him. So, um, yeah, I'm worried that AB won't feel the same way. But Derek, what are your thoughts?
Um, I I don't know. I don't believe that they think they have the quote unquote replacement plan on the roster currently. And I don't know if they believe they're going to get that guy in the draft. I think this is more so All right, we'll table this for now. Look at it in the future. Because if you look at the running back room, you signed Dante Foreman, Chubb coming off of injury. You still have Jerome Ford. Excuse me. They signed oh, what's his name? Naeem
Foreman
Hines.
or
No.
Hines. You already said
Yeah.
Foreman. That's right.
Yeah, Naeem Hines. So even though I don't view Hines as a running back, regardless, I think he's going to make the roster based on his special teams ability. So I mean, there's already questions who's going to make that running back room between Chubb, Donta Foreman, Jerome Ford, Naeem Hines. Like, I don't know if we carry four running backs, but who knows? I think Chubb is going to be evaluated this season as far as where he's at coming back off of his injury, where he's going to be going forward. And again, this is the sad reality of running backs. Todd Gurley went from being top of the top elite to irrelevant. Le'Veon Bell, top of the top elite, irrelevant. This is what happens. And I don't think Chubb is going to be irrelevant. I still think he's going to be impactful. But he might. We have to prepare ourselves that he might not be the Nick Chubb we knew. And it's a tough reality. It's like a death in the family almost, kind of. But you got to prepare for the worst, hope for the best. And I think the Browns are preparing for the worst in case they need to move on. But also at the same time, I think they're preparing for the best with this restructure. I think it gives you leverage where if you need to find somebody else, you can. And if you want to extend him a couple years, I think this gives you flexibility to do that too. And also, I mentioned this the last time. I'd much rather draft a running back next year, personally, just because I think the guys coming out are much better. Ollie Gordon, Quinshaw Judkins, Trevion Henderson. There's multiple guys. Edwards from Michigan. There's just a better running back class. So I like it. I think it makes sense. Seems like everything is on the up and up. I've heard nothing bad about Chubb's recovery. So we'll see how he comes back into this offense. But one thing, Tristan, we did learn about the offense, and this is not necessarily surprising information. Deshaun Watson came out and said that the Browns are going to have an attacking offense. Tristan, we've been talking about it all off season. The changes that are going to be made with Kevin Stefanski, with the new offensive coordinator, whose name is slipping my mind because this always happens. Um,
Ken Dorsey.
Ken Dorsey. Yep,
Yeah.
you're right.
Sorry,
I don't know why.
I knocked over a drink, and I was like, ah, but we're good.
Oh
We're good.
gosh, I don't know why that always happens. Anytime position pops in my head, I can never remember it. But anyway, we've talked about all these changes that we're expecting. Essentially, this is the confirmation of that. Going to be an attacking offense. Tristan, everything we've talked about, now hearing this, what do you think? What do you think this changes anything that we've kind of already covered? And how do you think the Browns are going to handle this as far as a scheme change?
Yeah. So first things first, I'm gonna preface this right here, right now. Okay. At some point this year, I am going to accidentally say John Dorsey instead of Ken Dorsey. I'm saying this now ahead of time and apologizing because it's gonna happen. I'm terrible with name. I have some terrible name days, and it's gonna happen. But no, I mean for me, it's just like I don't put a lot into that quote if I'm being honest. Like the goal of an offense is to attack. Like you're on the offensive, like you're attacking. But I get what Deshaun's trying to say here, that this is gonna be a team that is more vertical, right? That's when I'm reading between the lines. That's how I interpret this. This is gonna be a team that makes big plays, and we saw that this team is capable of doing it down the stretch last year, where we kind of had struggles earlier in the year where it just the way that the offense was run with Deshaun, it didn't get the most out of Deshaun, right? And we played an older style system, and Flacco knew it really, really well. And now we're switching it up, and we're gonna be better attacking vertically. We have to be better attacking vertically this year, at least with Deshaun. With Joe, we were great at it. Had really explosive plays. I know that we're capable of doing the same with Deshaun, and it will fall mostly onto him. And obviously, we're gonna get into that later. But I feel like this offense, we've talked a lot about it already. You're going to see a lot of our offense ran out of the shotgun. You're going to see the running game take a new shape. And I will predict that there are going to be some games and some times where we hit some road bumps because it's not going to be as easy, right? However, I think that it's a change that's going to be for the better because our offensive, like passing attack, will be a lot better, in my opinion. And we already know what we're getting from this defense. It's going to be a top five defense in the league. You can almost book it. If they have a bad year, they're top 10 still, right? So honestly, I'm excited to see what Ken Dorsey can do. All the different minds that we talked about getting into that room. Ken Dorsey, Tommy Reese. Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm forgetting the.
You're not talking about Vrabel, are you?
Not variable, no, because he's
Yeah.
going to be more
Okay.
so on the
Yeah.
defensive side, player management style stuff.
Who are you
Um,
talking about? Because it's Stefanski, Dorsey, and Tommy Reese.
Tommy Reese,
Oh, you
who's our
talking about the
receivers
running backs
coach?
coach? Oh, Chad O'Shea.
Chad O'Shea. Yes,
Okay.
yes, that's who I was thinking of. I'm excited to see what those guys can cook up this year in the pass game. It's going to be exciting and interesting to see. Those guys will definitely have some input. Oh, did we hire a quarterbacks coach? If we did, I can't remember.
I thought Tommy Reese was quarterback.
He's our tight ends coach.
Yeah, but didn't he? I don't know. He's
Ah,
somebody. Somebody's yeah. Somebody's something. I don't know.
because for some reason I thought there was a name that I just can't remember right now. At least for the passing side of things, but and then Deuce. Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting
Deuce
his name
Staley,
now. Deuce Staley, thank you. Him and the offensive line, new coach. Oh,
Seahawks
from
dude,
Seattle. Yeah.
whatever his name is.
Oh my gosh, this is terrible. See, I manifested this. I said I'm gonna have a bad names day when talking about gonna
Mm-hmm.
confuse Ken Dorsey and John Dorsey, and
Mm-hmm.
I just completely fell off a cliff. I'm terrible. Um, but there's a lot of new minds in this offensive room, and I'm very intrigued to see what our playbook looks like next year and how we execute from that playbook. Um, I'm excited, man. It's gonna be interesting. But as far as does him saying what he said affect anything that I thought before? Absolutely not. I was, if you read between the lines with the hires, you could tell that this was gonna be the direction we were going in.
Yeah, and like I said, I think this is just confirmation. I'm about to sneeze. Maybe not. Hold on. I can feel it, but it's not hitting. I don't think I am. Anyway, um, yeah, no, I think this is just more of what we thought. This is just confirmation of what we thought. Um, the only thing I will add is it's kind of been highly speculated now that the Browns are going to pick a receiver with our first pick in the draft. And I think, I'll be honest, I really do feel like it is something they view is still a need. Not as desperate, but again, Cooper, Elijah Moore still in question as far as contracts go. And that leaves you with Judy, Bell, Tillman. And I think when you look at it that way, I think it's more like, hey, okay, maybe we need something. I'm still a believer in Cedric Tillman. I really am. I think he is a very good receiver. However, if a Keon Coleman is there and I can say, hey, you're our ex receiver, boy, am I running up to the podium. I mean, it's not even a question. So I don't know. I think we're gonna do a lot of what we expect. The interesting thing for me is going to be how. How do we go about it? Where are we going to move Elijah, Judy, Cooper? We kind of know what he's going to do. And then how much is it going to be Njoku? Right? How is this balance of the offense going to shake out? That's really the only question that I have, because they're putting a lot on Deshaun, and they need to. This is the year we have to figure it out.
Yeah. And I will say one last thing. There's one player that I'm really excited to see in this new look offense. You already said his name, Elijah Moore. And the reason for that is it was very clear last year that Stefanski wanted to try these end arounds with him because he's a fast player. And the end arounds are something that for a lot of other teams works really, really well. A lot of that east-west running style. He clearly likes that. But we just weren't able to capitalize on it a lot last year. So I'm excited to see if he goes back to that this year. Maybe there's a different way that we're going to draw up these plays to make it a little bit cleaner for Elijah. Or maybe they just say, you know what, let's just keep your speed to the slot and the outside. We don't need you to do that stuff. Or use him more effectively in the screen game. I view him as a versatile weapon. And when we look at this new receiving room, I think that he has the capability to get some very favorable matchups. Because as a wide receiver, too, last year, he was not that bad. I think that a lot of the quarterback changes kind of affected him. Under Joe, before he got hurt, he was really starting to catch a groove, especially in that Jets game. He was our wide receiver one, going up against two of the best corners in the league. And he performed really well before he got hurt. So I think that there's another level to Elijah Moore. And I think that we'll be able to unlock that this year with Ken Dorsey.
Yeah, I agree. I do. The thing for me that I think along with that, kind of tailing off of that, I think it's going to have to be a lot of motion. You're going to be in gun a lot. And for Deshaun, that's what he's comfortable in. But big caveat being, you got to find ways to switch it up. We can't go from one extreme to another extreme, if that makes sense. You can't go from having an old school style to just a drop back and throw it style. I think Kevin Stefanski, he's smart, he knows what he's doing. Bring guys in motion. I would motion the running back out of the backfield a lot. I'd motion Elijah into the backfield.
Yeah.
I think he is the key piece to this offense while you still have him, because odds are one of him or Cooper are going to be gone. If not both. I would say probably Cooper stays, if anything. But while you have Elijah under contract, use him in that role. Use him all over the field, which we kind of did, like you said, but things happened the way they did, and you weren't really able to, which is unfortunate. But it is what it is. I mean, it's just the reality of the situation.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Totally, totally agree with you there.
Yeah. So, new offense, new scheme, and someone familiar with this new scheme potentially, or at least familiar with this player, Mr. Ken Dorsey is. We have not talked about a trade, Tristan, that happened in the NFL, and I'm not sure if this ever got posted or not. I can't remember, but I had a little bit of a I'm just pissed off at life situation, which happens. It is what it is. And I kind of went off about things that you learn in the playoffs. And until things change, it's going to remain the same. It's a definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. And Tristan, one of the things that I said was get Stephon Diggs as far away from Buffalo as you can. It will not work. It is oil and water. And lo and behold, the Buffalo Bills trade Stephon Diggs to the Houston Texans for a 2025, being the caveat here, 2025 second round pick. So, Tristan, I'll let you go first, but along with this trade, the Texans have voided years off of Stephon Diggs' contract, and essentially, the Texans traded for Diggs to be a one-year rental for a 2025 second. So, my question to you, sir, is for Buffalo. What do you think this means for them? Do you think this is going to benefit them, hurt them? And then for the Texans, do you think this is a good move? What do you think Diggs' future in Houston is, and how is this going to affect the Texans?
Yeah, so there's multiple perspectives to this, right? Um, for starters, um, when we look at like the more exciting part of this, which is Diggs going to the Texans. Obviously, he has had really successful career in the NFL. Has been a solid number one, number two receiver his entire time. Although solid is probably an understatement. He's been exceptional at those positions. And when I look at this deal, I think of what this could be for the Texans, and it's exciting, man. Like that receiving core is top notch. It is up there. Um, with some of the absolute best receiving cores in the NFL. Um, what I will say about this that does kind of um scare me on the Texans side of things is, you know, Diggs has now played with Kirk Cousins in Minnesota, and now he's played with Josh Allen in Buffalo. And both of those teams, when he was on them, were teams that won. Right? He got lots of targets on those teams, and yet, you know, he was unhappy. So, what are you going to be able to do to make this guy happy, to make this guy stay out of the headlines? Because listen, the last thing that you want is a lot of media attention on your young quarterback. We saw it here in Cleveland. The You could argue that the negative media attention that Baker received uh, really affected him and really kind of led the spiral downwards turn in his career. I'm not saying that that's going to be the same exact thing that happens with Stroud. I think Stroud's a better player than Baker was as a rookie, of course, and I think Stroud is special, and I don't think that Diggs is capable of taking that away. But um, it's a question mark for me, character wise. Um, just is he gonna be able to not be a distraction? That's the big thing. Because he's not gonna get all of the targets. He's not gonna get the majority. I'd even say. I think that the majority is probably going to go to Tank Dell and Nico Collins. I think this is a compliment to the offense, and I think Diggs could even potentially be the slot option. Like, I don't think that it's a locked in great fit for the Texans, especially because Diggs might just simply say, "No, I'm playing on the boundary. I'm a boundary receiver." It could cause some friction. We'll see. But um, obviously, the talent's there, and it's going to be exciting to see how it turns out. But Buffalo side of this, so to get a second round pick for Diggs is good, I think, especially when you consider what the uh, the Chargers got for Keenan Allen. It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I will say is this: Buffalo is eating a lot of dead salary, and that's an issue for them. But this isn't a year where they're really expecting to win anyway. I think that they are kind of looking at this as like you know what, this year we're gonna get some young guys in. We're gonna fill them into roles, and we'll see what we can do. And then next year, we'll have a little bit more flexibility. That's kind of how I see this for Buffalo this year. So, um, man, it's I don't know, man. It's crazy. It's crazy. Just the thought that Diggs is going to be playing for the Texans now. I didn't see it coming, if I'm being honest. I didn't think that the Bills were going to eat that much salary.
Dude, it's a weird situation because like you said, there's multiple sides to this. And I'll just start off for the Bills because I'm maybe not on record, but at least with you, Tristan, you know what I said.
Oh, you're
I
on
think
record. You're on record multiple times. You're on record.
I think this is the best thing for Buffalo, getting him out of there. I think this is a fantastic move to ship him out of there. Now, what they got for him, initially I was like, yikes. Yikes. A 2025 2. But factoring in everything that you mentioned, I think the contract obviously being a massive part, and that's why the Texans kind of worked things, excuse me, and made it a 1 year. I think for the Bills, this is what they needed to do. They needed to get this headache, this distraction off the team. And listen, I'm not saying Stephon Diggs is a bad player. Stephon Diggs was a very good player while he was in Buffalo. Don't get me wrong. But Stephon Diggs was also a very good player in Minnesota. There are problems that come with him that you just can't move past. They're just going to be problems. And if you accept them, hey, that's up to you. But for me, I think that Stephon Diggs is OBJ 2.0. And listen, Odell Beckham Jr. is a really good player, but pretty much everywhere he's been, where he's had long periods of time there, it has been distraction, injury. Like, there's been the other things that come with OBJ. And, for the Bills, Diggs was really good in the regular season, and then when you needed him most, he always came up short. He was always, I don't get the ball, I don't get the ball. And then Josh Allen throws him a deep ball in the playoffs, wide open in his hands, and he drops it. Like, listen, it happens. It does. There was a game this past year where Dak and CD were not connecting. And then they went into halftime, come out of halftime, figured it out, right? That's what you have to do. And if you can't get on the same page as your receiver one, it's just not going to work. And listen, Buffalo's a talented team. They've lost a lot of players this offseason. They have lost a lot of significant players. And you're building around Josh Allen. This is the class to replace Stephon Diggs. There are a number of great receivers in this draft class. I've watched every single one of them, top to bottom, guys who are going to go UDFA up to Marvin Harrison Jr., right? This class is stacked full of receivers. And are you going to replace Stephon Diggs? Maybe not. But if you can come out of this draft class with a guy who can be your number one or number two receiver, you can do that. There are plenty of guys in this draft that you can do that. I like Khalil Shakir. They signed Curtis Samuel. Currently, their receiver room sucks. I think they're going to make some additions. It'll be fine. It'll work out. They'll figure it out. So for Buffalo, I think this is great. I think this is a part of the reload, figure it out, come back to the table, do your magic, and, restart, essentially. Get over that hump. You haven't beaten KC. They haven't been able to do that. This is their attempt at, okay, we've tried it. We've worked it out. We've added. We've subtracted. Now we're going to make some major changes. And I think ultimately that will be a good thing. You might not see it for a year or two down the road, but I think it's going to be good. For the Texans, this is a whole complete different perspective here. For the Texans, this is a extreme low risk, high reward potential here. Because you have a guy in CJ Stroud who's coming off the best rookie quarterback season we have quite literally ever seen. And you already had a great connection with Nico Collins. You already had that connection with Tank Dell. And you add a guy for a second round pick next year, which you're welcome, Houston. They've had extra picks because of who? Us. And they have the luxury to do stuff like this. You got Buffalo to eat a lot of the cap, so it's not like they're forking out a huge part of their cap space to Stephon Diggs. And who cares? A 2025 second for a roster this offseason that has gone out and added Daniil Hunter, opposite of Will Anderson Jr. I want to say they signed a defensive tackle. I could be wrong. They've made a couple additions. outside of just Daniil Hunter. But now you add Stephon Diggs, and listen, here's the deal. I've been very critical of Diggs. I'm not gonna say that I think he's gonna be top three receiver this year, but what I will say is a receiver of the caliber of Stephon Diggs can open up so much more for Dalton Schultz, for Tank Dell, for uh yeah, forgot his name again. I just
Nico
mentioned him,
Collins.
Nico Collins. So having a guy like Diggs can open up so much more. Even if he doesn't work out with CJ, even if he's not the number one, his presence on the field can help you out a lot. And the Texans have made a lot of big time moves, and they are entering the heavyweight division quickly. And listen, if it works out, great. If it doesn't, who cares? You're not investing that much. I mean, a second round pick, is it a lot? Yeah. But for a 1 year rental on a guy who could be a great receiver for you, it's really not that much. So, I do agree with you. I see your perspective with CJ. This could end up being a 2019 Browns situation where you go out and you get OBJ and then there's the distractions. He's not getting the ball. That could be the case. I don't think it is. I think CJ is a more mature player. I don't think he cares. I think Diggs can come to the sideline and bitch all he wants. It's not going to make a difference. Like, CJ's going to throw it to the open man. So, all in all, both sides, I think this is the best case scenario for both teams. Low risk, high reward with the Texans, and for the Bills, you get a massive headache off of your team, and you now have a little bit more to try to figure this out moving forward. So, Tristan, you have anything else you want to add on to that?
No, no, I think we did a good job covering digs to the Texans for sure.
Nope. So, on to this next topic. Your boy today unintentionally created a war on Brown's Twitter.
Stirring the
Um,
pot. Hmm.
yeah, yeah, and it all started from a Discord. And listen, I'm not saying this to take credit. Like, if I didn't say it, I would say I didn't say it. But I brought this up because in a Discord with a bunch of people from Brown's Twitter, we were talking about the draft. We were talking about Caleb and whether the hype is real or the hate is too much and that whole conversation. And I brought it up. I was like, you guys would swap Caleb for Deshaun, or yeah, you would swap Caleb for Deshaun right now. Brought that up just to be like, hey, y'all are talking all this shit, and this is what we're dealing with here. And boy, oh boy, did this start an argument, Tristan. I told you before we started recording, we talked for probably 4 hours, 4.5 hours, debating, arguing, screaming at some points. And it led friend slash enemy, JC, to be the one to take the bullet here. He put out a Twitter poll, and Tristan, before hand the reins over to you, I want to make it clear what it is, because JC in his Twitter poll sucked at explaining what it was. This is the question. The question is, if you had, and again, this would never happen, not even remotely real of a possibility, couldn't happen. But fantasy world, if you right now could swap out Deshaun Watson for Caleb Williams, meaning Deshaun Watson and his entire contract, that whole 230 million guaranteed, everything, all the baggage that comes with the money that he got, everything else, trade him to Chicago, you get Caleb Williams. Would you do that? That was the question. So and we don't want to go forever on this because I've already beyond explained myself with this today. But just in general, Tristan, this argument, this war that has been sparked, even though it's not realistic whatsoever, just what's your thoughts on the whole situation?
Um, yeah, so uh this is a tough one for me. Um, and the reason why it's a tough one is uh I think Caleb Williams is a high potential player, but I've also been one to come out and say he is not a finished product, right? Like there's a lot of stuff in his game that he has to polish, especially um just like the quick decision plays and stuff like that. Like I just I don't like his ability to read defenses downfield. I think it's something that he's really got to improve on. But physically he's capable of anything and everything, right? Um, with that being said, would I take Caleb over Deshaun? Here's where it gets difficult for me, right? We haven't seen Caleb play in the NFL, right? And it's clear that this year for the Browns is, hey, we're a big time contender. And we've built this offense specifically for Deshaun Watson. Now, I think that Caleb could come in and it would be built in a way for him to thrive for sure. Um, but I just think that this has been built for Deshaun. And listen, I still think that there's a special player in Deshaun. Um, I think it's very possible that he comes out this year and he's one of the top 10, top 5 quarterbacks in the league. He'd have to take a pretty significant jump from where he had the past couple seasons with Cleveland. Um, but I think he's capable of doing it. And we've seen that he's capable in the NFL of playing at the highest level. And that for me is the big thing is, you know, I would much rather have a guy that has in the past proven that he can do it than I would a rookie for this year. And it's ultimately because it's this year. This team is built for Deshaun. This team is built to win now. And that's why I would probably stick with Deshaun. Um, but what I would say is this: it's not an easy choice, right? Because Caleb, incredibly talented player, high ceiling, getting a rookie contract at quarterback gives so much flexibility all over the roster. But I just this season is too important. And you know what? If it's gonna be that close between of a debate for me, then I'm gonna rock with my quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, I'll keep this short because there's no point in having too long of a discussion. I just thought we'd bring it up because it's hilarious. But my whole argument was this, right? Deshaun Watson, if you had the option to kind of do a one for one swap, everything that you just mentioned there, right? And this is the big thing for me because the point that was brought up a lot today is Caleb didn't take a snap on the field in the NFL yet. How do we know? How do we know? Okay, you could argue this is not the same thing, but my question then was, okay, Amari Cooper for Marvin Harrison Jr. straight up. Who's not doing that? And maybe there are some people out there that wouldn't do that, or even Malik Neighbors. Like, I think we can all look at that and be like, oh yeah, if you can swap out Amari Cooper for one of those guys, sure. But I for me, the whole purpose of this debate and this argument was like, hey, listen, Deshaun Watson, it's not just the on the surface baggage. You have multiple injuries, right? Deshaun Watson has had two ACL injuries. He dealt with obviously the minor stuff, the high ankle sprains, all that. But now coming off of a shoulder injury, and Tristan, at the time when the injury happened, I was like, ooh, I'm a bit concerned about this. And I think it was, I said it was going to affect him for the rest of the season. Well, he ended up not playing. So, in a way, you could say that was correct, kind of. But, for me, it's as simple as this. If you can restart with a guy like Caleb Williams, a rookie contract. That's 5 years of control on a dirt cheap contract at quarterback. So this whole window and win now thing for me, that just takes it from this to this, right? So that was my argument on that standpoint. Again, Caleb Williams has not had the injuries that Deshaun Watson has had, and that's you're taking a gamble either way. Is the point of the conversation. You're gambling on Deshaun Watson becoming Deshaun Watson again, right? Or you're gambling on a guy who has unbelievable talent, unbelievable tools, but people don't like him because he paints his nails. He's a weirdo, whatever. But that's the conversation, and it's like, the fact that it was as heated of an argument as it was today is hilarious to me. And this kind of, I guess, if you want to transition here into our topic about Deshaun Watson, this is the thing for me. This fan base is, I've said it many, many, many times, it will defend a guy like Deshaun Watson to the point of being absurd, right? To the point where he can do no wrong and he's perfect. And then you have the people on the other side where he can do no right and he sucks and he's awful and this is the worst thing the Browns have ever done and we're going to regret this for the rest of existence. Listen, Deshaun Watson, we've said it many times, it all relies on him this year. It's all on his shoulders. And to your point, the Browns are set up for this year and for next year based on how Andrew Berry's structured these contracts. We're going to have to get the most success now that we can. And, when it comes to Deshaun, it's not about his play for me. It's about the health. Again, 3 seasons now, or are we going? We're going on our third. We're going on our third season of Deshaun Watson as a Cleveland Brown, and he's played a total of 12 football games. 12. And it's a harsh reality, but I think the reality is this: both sides can be facts. Both things can be true. Deshaun can be a really, really good to great quarterback again because he's shown flashes of it, and he's never really gotten an opportunity to get in rhythm. But also, maybe he doesn't. The injuries are piling up. He has struggled to see the field, I would say, as well as he did in the past. And there's a lot of factors in this. So ultimately, the Browns have done everything they can. The Browns have gone out and got him weapons. They've gone out and hired offensive coordinators, position coaches, brought in weapons as far as in the run game now to help with Chubb being out. It's all on Deshaun Watson. It's all on Deshaun Watson. And the tribalism, the back and forth is not needed because at the end of the day, our success lies on him. And honestly, it lies on him being healthy. Because even if he plays at a mediocre level or just an okay to good level, this team can win football games. We can. But we need number 4 to be the guy. This is the year. It's put up for shut up time. We'll see. It all comes down to this year. So, Tristan, what say you, sir?
Yeah, just building off of what you just talked about, like this is the year for Deshaun Watson, man. Like I told you, like, I'm gonna ride with him. He's my quarterback, right? Um, but at the same token, we all know what this year is. We all know what this team is built to do this year. We all know what this team, talent wise, is capable of. Um, you know, last year we went into the year and we said that we're gonna go as far as Kevin and Deshaun take us, right? And Kevin took us pretty damn far, right? Considering all of the injuries and everything that had happened last year, we still went pretty damn far. And, you know, there's no longer a question about Kevin Stefanski. There isn't. You don't win Coach of the Year two times in 4 years by fluke, right? You do it because you're a good head coach, and not only that, but other organizations around the NFL recognize that. Other writers recognize that. People that cover other teams compare and see what the Cleveland Browns are doing, and they say that that is the coach of the year. Um, this is all on Deshaun now. This is all on Deshaun. And listen, we can't point to the wide receiving room anymore, right? Because we got Jerry Judy. We've got great depth options, right? The young talent that we've got in that room is amazing. Let's see, tight end. Njoku's really burst onto the scene. He's looking great. Offensive line, it's been one of the best offensive lines in the league. Last year had some difficulty with injury. But historically, over the past several years, it's been one of the best, if not the best, right? And then, of course, you got Nick Chubb, who last year, of course, got hurt. But before that, his entire tenure as a Cleveland Brown has been nothing short of excellence. And even before he got hurt, he was fantastic last year. The best that we've seen Nick Chubb. We forget that because it's so long ago. The matter of the fact is, we have, even after a winning season, replaced the majority of our offensive staff because we didn't feel our offense was good enough. We weren't heading in the right direction with our offense. This offense, this team, the personnel, everything is built to give Deshaun Watson success. He's got to deliver. This season, we go as far as he takes us. He's either going to drag us and we're going to get either bounced in the wild card or not even make the playoffs, or he's going to be the guy that leads us and he takes us and we lift Lombardi. That's what this year is. This defense is going to be amazing again. Top 5 most likely, top 10 bare minimum. This is an amazing group on defense. Special teams even. Like, the team is invested in special teams players, for Christ's sake. Like, they are all in this year. I do not see a single area on this Browns roster where I say that could lose us a season. There's nowhere, right? There's maybe one spot, right? Linebacker, because it's a question mark. One spot that you might say that could be a liability, right? But with all the talent that we've got around our linebacking core, it better not be, right? This is one of, if not the most complete teams in the NFL. And it's one of the best spots for a quarterback to be. He's got to deliver this year. It's either this year or it's never. That's what it is. That's what this season is. And we've been building up to this. And all off season, we were waiting to see. We made the moves that we had to make. And listen, I understand the draft is coming around the corner. But if we're being realistic with ourselves, there's nobody that we're going to get in the draft that's going to really move the needle that much for this team. Unless barring catastrophic injuries. Again, right? There's not going to
really
be...
lucky.
Yeah, exactly. But, like, this is the team. You're going to add some rookies who are going to provide some depth who you can hope to develop for the future. But for the winning now, this is the team. And it's capable. Let's see how far 4 takes us.
Yeah, I'd never forget why Deshaun Watson. Well, other than the real why, but
Yeah.
the why that he gave us was he felt like this team, this roster, coaching staff was the best situation for him to succeed, which is what we were saying the whole time when we were in the race to get Deshaun Watson. And it's even truer today than it was the day that we got him. The roster, the offense, everything's in a much better spot. It all comes down to him. And you know what? If I'm being completely honest, I'm a little bit nervous heading into this season because there's so much. Like, this is either he's the guy or we're looking for our next option. And, it's a scary reality, but it's like anything with life. Whether if you like it or not, it's going to hit you. And, with Deshaun, it's hit us in multiple different ways, but again, like anything, you have multiple ways you can take it. You can take it as, hey, we made a mistake and move on and accept it, or you can sit here and you can cry and you can bitch and you can moan about how, oh, we're going to be screwed forever. You got to play the cards you're dealt. And sometimes you get your own cards. Sometimes your decisions give you the cards you're dealt. But what are you going to do with them? How are you going to get up? How are you going to accept it? How are you going to upgrade? How are you going to move on? And or progress with what you have. That's the spot we're at right now with Deshaun Watson. And again, what you've seen from the Browns is we are going to do our very best to progress this, move this forward, make it the best it can possibly be. We've done a good job at that. We're actively currently trying to still do that, even like you said with the draft coming up. We'll see what happens. But it's on the other side now, right? Takes two to tango. Browns are doing their part. Deshaun's got to do his part. Deshaun's got to step up. He's got to handle his the responsibilities as the leader, as the quarterback of this team, and figure it out. So, but I have nothing else to add on that. Do you have anything else you would like to add on that?
Uh, just that you said you were nervous about this whole thing, and I understand why you're nervous. I've made peace with it.
Yeah.
I've made peace with it. I'm, I'm cool about it. Uh, do or die.
Do or die. I think that's a good way to wrap it up. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Good podcast. Shaking off the rust.
Yep.
Because it's been what, like 2 weeks since we've
Yeah, something
recorded.
like
So,
that.
but we'll be trying to get some more podcasts out. It's just been a little bit hectic for the two of us, but it's been a good podcast. I'm really excited to see what happens in the draft.
Yep. And we will be here for the draft coverage. I'm going to be very busy, but we'll be here. We'll cover it. We're going to talk about it. Hopefully Keon Coleman at 54. Fingers crossed. Who knows? I don't. You don't either. But we'll see. We'll see how the draft falls and if we get lucky. But till next time, see you later, everybody. Go Browns.